Awesome. Joe, what energy drink do you have with you right now?
Actually, I don't have one.
Nick has two, so
Dude,
Nick has two.
you want to borrow one?
You know what? Yeah, pass one over.
so he's got you covered. Sweet
Damn,
guys.
let me
Wait a
down,
minute, man,
bro.
man, man. You know what? I knew something was off. Maybe that's it.
That's what it is. Well, Nick was joking yesterday because he put in the Facebook group, it's like bring your weapon to roundtable day. So you guys, if you weren't here on the very first one, we started calling this roundtable. And so we were like, oh, it's like Knights of the Round Table. So on the very first roundtable we ever did, we asked everybody to like share what their like weapon of choice would be. And if you had it, that was even better. So Nick literally brought out an axe. So well, what we'll do, it's we're recording now, and so we're gonna dive right in. If you've never been to Roundtable, we do these once a month, so welcome. This is intended to be like a free open forum. Sometimes we have a planned topic like today, and then other times we really make it organic conversation based off of what you guys are facing in your business as coaches, and we collaborate together. So it's not, you know, just Nick and I teaching something or sharing. It's usually a conversation, and that's what makes it the most valuable. And so roundtables are meant to be like insight from different perspectives, different backgrounds, different thoughts and questions. So we encourage you guys even today. We do have a topic that we wanted to share, but this is meant to be a conversation. And so let's talk about it together, ask questions, kind of give ourselves something to walk away with. And so we also wanted from the very beginning of all the roundtables that these aren't just like another Zoom call to listen to, but something that you would be like, okay, yep, there's one nugget, and I'm doing that this month, or I'm gonna take this piece and I'm gonna go use it in my business. That's really the intention. These are meant to be more like action oriented calls, and so keep that in mind, I guess, as we're going through today and we're just talking together, that we want you to have a nugget that you're actually going to do. Today's we're going to make that kind of easy because we have something specific, but um, ultimately we want it to apply to your business and get you the results that you want. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. Nick, how do we want to kick this off? Once upon a time.
Well, yeah, and I dropped goodies in the chat like usual.
Already, Nick always comes with the guides and the cool stuff. So there's we've got something put together yesterday for you. And so you can save that, but we're gonna go through it today. Oh, you didn't put the title on it that we were joking about.
No, it's it's just saved as a PDF title on my
Yeah.
computer.
Oh. So I think maybe I'll start with Once Upon a Time, and then I'll kind of let Nick kind of kick this off. But we told you we wanted to share something specific with you today, which was kind of the video that I shared, and I showed you all of these leads that are coming in. So how did that happen? Um, so once upon a time, I took a 3-month break from posting anything on Instagram. I literally posted nothing in the fall of last year. I just needed a break. I didn't really know what I wanted to say. I felt like most of my leads were coming from other places. And so I would post in my stories, but I wasn't posting anything on my account. And right around the November timeframe of last year, I was Nick and I were having a conversation. It was like we've got to get more organic leads. And so where do they come from? Without having to do paid traffic, without anything, like Instagram's right here in front of us. So how do we do this better? Do you hire somebody? That was, I mean, we had a conversation around it. Like, what's the best way? Should we hire somebody and have somebody help with social media? Because for just so you guys have context, like we each run our own nutrition company. So Nick runs Transformation Project. That's his company that he founded. I founded Fit Me Nutrition. And then obviously we co-founded CBM, Coaching Biz Manager. So we talk about all these things all the time because we're using them for our companies and for CBM. And so we're like, what's the best way here to get leads? That was the question. It wasn't what's the best way to like be on social media. It was just how do you get new people in your universe? And so that was the Once Upon a Time in November. And so we were brainstorming and decided to learn as much as possible about how to do that on Instagram. And I remember getting my camera out and all of this stuff and being like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to figure out how to to make reels and get leads on Instagram. And so I made 1 or 2 posts and I was like, gosh, this is going to be hard to be consistent. Everything new is generally hard, I think, to be consistent with if you're not good at it, right? I told you I took a 3-month break. And so I posted in the Coaching Biz community Facebook group, does anybody want to play 75 hard except for business? And so this was like the second week in December, right after I just started posting. And so the game was, I've never done 75 hard. I've never done Andy Frisella's actual 75 hard, but I know the concept, quite well. So I was like, who wants to play? Here's how we're going to play. You have to post 1 reel every single day. You have to send an email to your list. You have to do 10 outbound, 10 outbound messages. It doesn't have to be like a sales message, just an outbound, and then 1 offer. It doesn't have to be a paid offer. That's the game. So that's how we started in December. That's the beginning of just the commitment to consistently learning how to show up on Instagram, I guess was what I was doing. And so I don't know how many people signed up, Nick, probably 30, maybe.
I think it was way more than that. I can
Yeah.
actually,
They might even be tagged in the
Yeah.
system because
I'll
I
look.
sent a guide. But there was quite a few of us that like said yes. And I think Lexi, who's on here, Lexi Wright and I are the only ones left, I believe. We're on what day is it, Lexi?
73.
73. 73 days. And a lot of times she's posting the GIF like at 8 o'clock at night and I'm hitting it at 10 when I'm finally finished. So I guess that's the once upon a time, like the beginning of this story was, how do you get more leads was the question to answer. How do you get more people into your universe? And there are a lot of different ways. And so it was like, well, let's learn this way. And so, yeah, Nick, that's kind of where that brings us to today, sort of.
Yeah, and John just asked in the chat, how's that going for Christy and Lexi? And I'm curious, Christy, how's it going for you?
Well, the only part that matters to me is the leads. So there are other numbers that we'll probably share with you, like on like the Instagram views and reach and stuff. But the one that matters, the one that's really exciting is, I'm going to tell you the total right now. I think it's 450 leads right now. No, so it's 468 since Sunday with launching a new lead magnet. So that, to me, that's how it's going. And the real test, honestly, is I just don't even want their email, phone number, and names, which is what I'm getting. What I would love is them to sign up as clients. So really that's the future, right? Is them becoming clients or getting value from my universe and having a great experience. So it's funny because when we posted like, hey, I just launched a new lead magnet and got, at that point, it was 200 leads. It was Tuesday or something. Do you guys want to know? We knew the answer would be yes. And like, what's the lead magnet? Like, what's the trick? But just like with our clients in nutrition and fitness, like they always want to know what's the thing. Like, what have you been doing? Like, what's the trick that you just magically lost 20 pounds? And so Nick and I knew we like had to have a conversation around that because it's not even a trick or a thing. It's an actual system that you can do. And so we just want to share it with you so that you can do it. But I'm going to give you like this disclaimer. This is like the most important thing. You actually have to do it. Otherwise it doesn't work. And I say this out of like true coaching compassion that 40 something people signed up for 75 hard and only 2 people are left. And so this is one of those things where you can like do that again and be like, yeah, I'm going to do it and then not do it. Or you can just follow like super simple what we're going to show you. And it's not luck. It's not luck. But it is work. It is work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think like the biggest thing, like it's kind of hard to read between the lines of what Christy's saying. Like she was just focused on learning the process. Like she didn't really care about the outcome of the lead so much. right? It was like, how can I do this repeatedly and consistently? I need to learn how this mechanism or this machine works. So not only can I do it, but I can also scale it, right? So I can give it to team members so they can go do it, right? Because I think ultimately at the end of the day, like a lot of us kind of want that, right? We want to be able to like take this task and be able to give it to somebody else. So that way it's not driving us crazy, right? But we have to learn the strategy behind it. And so like this is a mistake that I've made like so many times in my business, like more times than I care to count, right? Is I hired social media strategists to run paid ads for me, right? I hired a videographer to shoot all of my reels and edit all of my reels. I hired a social media coach, right, to tell me exactly what to post and when to post it. And the thing is, like, I was dependent on them to get leads or to ultimately get clients for my business. And I did not understand the why behind any of it. And that was not cheap. I probably spent close to about $40,000 so far and just basically social media, right? And I did not learn a single thing behind it until we started this thing 3 months ago, right? I literally went up to Christine and I said, I am going to hire this coach to teach me why they're doing what they're doing. That's it. Like I literally paid them, I don't even remember how much, like $6,000. I said, I just want to learn why you're doing what you're doing and when you're doing it. That's it. I don't want leads. I don't want customers. I don't want money. They're like, well, how much money do you want to get from this course? Like $0. I just want to learn why you're doing the things that you're doing, like why you're making the decisions that you're making. So just teach me as we go. That's it. Right. And so me and Christy, we kind of been going back and forth, collaborating and sharing each other, everything as we kind of gone. Right. And she's really taken it and really ran off with it. Right. And I've been doing on the same side with TTP. Right. It's a little bit slower, but it's still growing. Right. Because I'm running a business account rather than a personal account. I think that does make a difference at the end of the day. Right. But I think just learning the strategy and the system is what's so important. Right. And I think we kind of lose sight on that as coaches. The same thing with like your clients, right? Like the ultimate goal of your clients is not just to get amazing results, but to teach them or empower them to keep those results for the rest of their life. And the only way they could possibly ever do that if they learn the system. Right. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. But the thing is, just like our clients, when we don't see results in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and we're going through a metabolic restoration phase and we're just maintaining for 2 months, we give up and we quit. And that prevents us from ever even getting over that hump to actually see the fruits of our labor. And I think that's the most important thing here is most people, like, they'll give up when they're 2 inches from gold, right? If you ever read that book, right? It's a great book. What was it called? Was it, Joe, you know that book? What was that book? Forgot it.
I think that's actually what it's called. But yeah, the
Um,
guy was in the gold mine and quit and
exactly.
sold it, and he was literally like that far from the biggest gold mine ever
Great.
found.
Dude, yeah, like just great analogy. Like there's this guy who was digging for gold and he gave up because the well ran dry and he sold it off and someone bought it. And if he would have kept digging 2 more inches, the next guy became a billionaire overnight because he just struck a massive payday. Right. And so like I think that's really the thing here is you got to keep going. You got to learn what's working and what's not working and why. Right. But yeah, and so what we're gonna do, or what Christy's really gonna do, right, is we're gonna kind of walk you through ultimately like every step that she's been taking to produce this outcome. Like it's not been an overnight success, right? Like just because she's gotten 450 plus whatever leads in this past week, it took 70 days to get to this spot because she had things that she needed to learn before she can actually push this thing out into the universe. And I think that's the more important thing here, right? Is it's going to take time. And the only way that you're going to get to this spot is if you put in the reps and you learn what's behind those reps. Okay. But yeah, so if you want to like pull up that little guide that we gave y'all, literally what we've done is like we talked about every step that she's been taking throughout this entire process. And we just want to kind of share that with you, right? Give you the lessons without the scars. Right. But at the end of the day, like it says, step number one is you need to commit. Like that's it. Like you have to commit. You have to commit to posting. You have to commit to learning what you're posting and why you're posting it. Like it has to be done. Right. If you're just posting for the sake of posting, like you're missing the mark here. Right. Is you have to be able to refine what you are doing. And so like that's step one, kind of like what happened in 75 hard, right? 40 whatever coaches committed to posting every single day, sending an email every single day, reaching out to people to help every single day, making an offer to genuinely help somebody every single day. But most people gave up probably about a weekend actually, right? Because they realize it's hard, it's challenging, right? It's not so easy, right? But at the end of the day, like if you want to strike the goal, you got to keep digging. Okay. So that's really step one. And then step two, right? We're talking about the content strategy. Like what was the actual strategy first? Okay. Christy, you want to kind of break down like what was like the initial, like what's the goal?
Yeah, the goal was to increase my views. So if we just like bottom line, what was the goal? The goal was to get more eyeballs on my account. So how do I solve for that problem? And so I was averaging with like I would call them throwaway reels, just like throw something up, phone in a caption, whatever. I would probably get 1,000 views on there on my account. Somewhere between 1 and 2,000 views. But again, my account's not new. Chris, I saw your face. My account's not new. I've been posting for 5 years on Instagram. So like 1,000 views was, what I would get typically for a decent one. And so I knew but I was getting no growth, no followers, no nothing. And so no leads, right? So who cares about that, right? So it's like the first goal, increase the views. So how do you do that? That was the thing that needed to be solved for. One was posting consistently, but like Nick said, you can post consistently and it won't matter if they're not getting better. And so then it actually has to get better. There is a way to get more views. And so what I started to learn and what Nick and I would talk about every day is what's the hook? What is the thing that is going to actually get someone to watch this in that first 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds? Why will somebody stay? And that was the first thing that I changed, was starting to put hooks on my reels. And I admit openly that hooks have never been like my strong point. That is something I'm like, I've not been good at it. It's just like everything else. I never worked at it. That's why I wasn't good at it. So this was like the beginning of, okay, I'm going to get better at this. That was piece 1 of how do you get more views. And I think piece 2 was, if they look, what I want this to actually make an impact. So my captions can't be throwaways anymore. No more throwaway. Like, God forbid I nail it with a hook, my video goes viral and there's nothing there. They get nothing out of it. And so I started committing to writing meaningful captions that had value in them. And I was not doing that before.
The last thing you ever want is to basically be in a downpour and you didn't, or a flood, and you didn't dig a trench or a moat around your house. Right. And so I say, like, you need to do the messy work first. You need to dig the trench, because what happens when you do go viral? Are y'all ready for the day that you go viral? Like, seriously, serious question. Like, you get 1 million views, 500,000 followers tomorrow. Are you ready for that to happen? Like, just think about that. Like, you should really ask yourself that question. Go look at your profile and be like, am I ready for this to happen? Right? Is my profile primed? Is my bio primed? Is there a clear, actionable next step for them to take? Right? If there's not, like, you need to evaluate that. Right? Is you need to make sure that, hey, like, your bio is very clear about who you serve. Like, your bio is about the audience. It's not about you. Don't forget that. Right? I think as coaches, we like to put like our accolades and stuff in our bios. In reality, our bio is made to attract our right fit clients. So it needs to be relevant to them. Right? And then, of course, there needs to be some kind of clear call to action, not your link tree with 5 different things. There needs to be one thing. Right? One very clear, specific thing. Right? But kind of like the content strategy is, right? So Christy had, like, I think, what, 4,000 followers at the time?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So 4,000 followers. Right? And so 1,000 followers or less, like, you only have one goal right now, and that's just growth. Right? You need to get more followers. Not having at least 10,000, like, you're ultimately, you don't even have a big enough audience to test things. Right? And so what I want you to kind of take is these numbers real quick. 1% of your average views are potential leads. Right? 1% are potential leads. So let's just say you have 2,000 views on average. 200 people out of those 2,000 views are potential leads. Okay. That doesn't mean that they're buyers. That means they're potential leads. Like, they'll possibly give you their information for some kind of value, right? They might follow you. Okay. Out of that small piece of the pie, 1% of them are potential buyers. And so we have like these, if we have like these small accounts, right, where we can easily run this well dry, right? And so we got to be careful. And so really, as you look at number 2, it says if you have 1,000 followers or less, like your only goal is to grow your followers, right? And the only way you're going to grow your followers is by getting more views and posting relevant content, right? And then once you get like 1,000 to 10,000 followers, well, now you kind of you can kind of start to throw out or start to incorporate promotional reels, right? And so what we do is like to split it up, right? So basically 80% are growth reels made to attract clients and get followers, right? And then the last 20% are promotional based, where we can actually put out some kind of offer, right? You probably heard it before, like jab, jab, punch, Gary V. You probably noticed it on Facebook. Every third swipe on Facebook is an actual promotion, right? It's almost the exact same concept, right? So basically 1 in every 5 reels can be a promotional reel. Okay, that's okay, right? You're not being too pushy or too salesy, but until you get to that, you should just all be growth oriented. Like, how can I grow? Right? How can I get more views? How can I get more followers? Okay. And so like that was really the overarching strategy, right? Is like we need to focus on growth reels. That's it. Like that's number 1 priority. We need to understand how to grow on social media. Does anyone know how to grow on social media? Like it can be hard, right? It's daunting. It's like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this consistently. We talk about how do we get leads. A lot of people don't know how to get leads, right? And this is what we're ultimately teaching is like learning actually is how to get leads through social media, right? But that was like step 1, right? And then we talk about like the digging the trench. That's priming your bio, okay? And so like there's a simple little framework right there that y'all can follow, right? Line 1 is basically who are you and who do you help, right? And then it's what content to expect from you, social proof, right? Goals to share, and then a call to action, right? That's a basically simple framework where you can prime your bio, where if somebody were to land on your bio, they can clearly see who you are, what is it that you do, who do you help, and see some social proof to know that, hey, you are like an authority figure, and then some kind of call to action, right? And so I would take the time to kind of walk through that and just make sure that your Instagram bio is set up for that, okay? But now it goes into step 4, which is increased views, okay? Like that was literally the next thing after we understood the strategy, after we had the bio set. Now it was like, okay, increase views. And we set 2 targets, or she set 2 targets really, right? The first target was to get to 3,000 to 5,000 views consistently, right? Like that was step 1. She was at 1,000 views. Remember, 1,000 is not enough to test, right? If you were to put a lead magnet out with 1,000 views, only 100 are potentially leads. Like we wouldn't know if that lead magnet worked because not everyone would opt into it. There's like a 50% opt-in rate, right? So that's 50 people. Out of those 50 people, your funnel is probably going to drop off again by another 50%. So we're talking like 25 people left. Like
Nick,
you
is it
don't know
1% or 10%?
1%.
1%. So it's less than that. It's 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 1%. Yeah. 10. Well, see, numbers off. So it's not enough to test a lead magnet, right? And so the ultimate goal was to get leads. And so we need to build a lead magnet that actually worked. And so the only way you could actually do that is by getting enough people to test it, right? And so like that was the first metric, was we need to get the 3,000 to 5,000 views so we can start to test, right? So we can put something out and see if it's working or if it's not working. So we have enough data, okay? And then the second target was to get from 1 in every 5 reels to go viral, right? Like that was the second one. Once we got the 3 to 5K views consistently, it was how can we make 1 in every 5 reels go viral? And by viral, like we're not talking like millions of views, right? Like that's like batshit viral, right? But 3 to 5 times her following kind of viral, right? And so like everyone has viral. Like everyone's viral is dependent on their account size, okay? And so 3 to 5 times her current following, like that was the next goal. Like how can I make 1 in every 5 reels do that? And the reason for that is when you're ready to launch something or promote something, you need to know that you can get it to go viral to get as much eyeballs on it as possible, right? Like nothing's worse than when you make like a post when you want to like promote like your challenge, your scholarship, your lead magnet, whatever it may be, and it gets like 10 views. It gets no attention at all, right? And so it's like, how can we make sure that whenever we're ready to blow something up, like she could actually do that? Like she knew exactly how to do that. And so that's why those 2 targets were those 2 targets, right? Is to get consistent with views. And by getting consistent with views, she would have to learn hooks, captions, all those things. So she would know how to make reels work. And then once she knew how to make reels work, okay, how can we make reels work when I need them to work? Like that was like the goal, right? Anything you want to add to that, Christy, on the views?
I think just a couple little details of what I actually did, like Prime Bio. I went to people who I know do really well on Instagram, who they have been on this platform successfully for a while, and I looked at their bios. So I looked at references. I probably looked at 5 to 10 to help me craft mine, and that was just the first draft of it, but I did it at the beginning. Just like Nick said, the last thing I wanted was to accidentally hit, and then have people come and not know what I'm about. Um, the other piece, like details wise, was that I did not make any offer at all in any form in my reels until this past Sunday. So that was 60 plus reels with no sign up for coaching, no like anything like that, nothing, zero. Because we weren't there yet. In my mind, it was like, we don't have like the average views aren't there yet. And so wait, just keep posting before you make that offer. And so it really was like, it wasn't like when Nick says 1 in 5, like that's once you've gotten some momentum building. And I feel like I was pretty guilty at the beginning of this, of being salty about Instagram and thinking that the only way you can grow is if I like showed my ass, or you know what I mean? Like I was thinking like that's the only way to grow on Instagram. Like as a girl, that's what I'm gonna have to do. And so I was a little salty on it too, because I had never done the work to actually see how you can grow it. But I did have that like misbelief. Or if you weren't going to show your ass, that you had to be super mean and controversial, which is not me. And I was like, you have to be one of those people to grow. Also not me.
Christy, did you track how much time you're spending over that 75 hard or time
Yeah.
period?
I didn't track it, but the irony is that I don't have a lot of time, because I have, I run FitMe, and Nick and I run CBM, and I've got 3 kids and a lot of moving pieces in my life. And so the gift was that I didn't have a lot of time. So I had to be very intentional about my time. My first 2 or 3 reels before we started 75 hard, I probably spent 2 or 3 hours on them, because I like filmed them and I did all this stuff, and I was like worried about the edits. But as soon as we started playing the game, I was like, well, I got to post, and I'm not just going to do shitty reps. So they have to be intentional. So then what I started doing was like every time I would be on the treadmill walking or doing my like conditioning, I was researching. I'd be on Instagram on the Reels tab looking for hooks. So I would just like use that time for that. And then when it was time to actually post, that's where I would like take the time. I would not rush the caption. Like sit here and write a good caption. Don't be lazy. Write a good caption. But then the videos, I just stopped worrying about them as much. They just seemed to be less important. It just became something that I was like, oh, I could literally slide a plate in front of the thing, and as long as the hook is good and the caption's helpful, people will watch it. And so, but to me, like the mistake that I think I've made before and that we can get suckered into is like, do you guys need to do the like slide a plate in front of your thing? No, but that's legitimately how I coach. Like that's that is my actual who I am. It like very much represents like how I approach my nutrition coaching, how I approach my life. Like it's not weird. So if you are someone who genuinely like for example, Lucas, when we met you, you were like, I'm all about that, that superhero life, like that's what you should see. Like his content should feel like him. So even the long answer is I spent way less time on the video and more time on the caption. And I just made it true to me. Like, this is what I do.
And your top reel was you sitting in a chair?
Yeah. The irony is that one hit before these other ones. But yeah, that's the top one right now, is literally sitting in a chair. So it
Made somebody else a lot of money.
made somebody else a lot of money. I got nothing out of it. Does anybody anybody with woodworking skills want to build this chair, and you can give me a cut of it and then I will promote it for you. But I think it almost feels weird telling you guys this right now, because it makes it sound like I have it figured out. The thing is that I'm literally just 2 months ahead of you. That's it. Like it sounds weird, like, oh, I'm a social media expert. Not at all. Zero. Not a social media expert. I literally 2 months ahead of you of doing reps every single day. That's it. So if you start posting every day, you're going to start to figure out what can I do consistently. And if it's talking heads, great. If it's workout videos, great. If it's tips, great. If it's some combination, but just by doing consistently, you'll start to figure out what is valuable to people. So I think that's really, I mean, the thing is that I'm only 2 months ahead of you and I plan to keep doing it. I mean, we've got more stuff to teach you about the strategy, but like PS, I'm not stopping after 75 hard. Like I'm going to keep doing this because I'm just going to keep learning and figuring this out. Why? I do not care how many followers I have. I do not give a rip. I don't care how many views I get. I care that I get leads for my business.
Are your hooks, Christy, mainly the words that show up on your like title photo? Is that the hook you're talking
The
about?
cover image also doesn't matter. Like if you went to my account right now, you'd be like, wait a minute, I'm confused. Like like you're missing a bunch of cover images because I usually go and put them after just because I need to like update them. The hook is the actual beginning of the reel. So the video itself has a written statement on it. That's the hook. And so if it's not a written hook, it needs to be a verbal hook. Like you won't believe what this person just told me. That's a verbal hook that they'll actually be able to read with the caption, or it can be an actual visual hook. So it could be you running over your scale with your truck and it's crumbled to pieces. Like in the first 2 seconds, it's crumbling to pieces would be like the visual hook.
Yeah. So really the main things for increasing views was one, the hook, right? The hook actually needs to be attractive, catchy, sexy, right? It needs to be intriguing, really. Like such an important component. It's like 50% of the reel, right? Like the other 40 to 50% is the caption. Like the videos, like they're not as important as you think they are. But hey, if you have the time and maybe the equipment to do that, by all means, like it will add to it, right? It's definitely not going to take away. But I think we get too caught up on the actual video and we forget like the most important components, which is like the actual hook, getting them to watch the video. Because hey, you can make the best video in the world, but if your fucking hook sucks, it doesn't matter. No one's going to watch it, right? They're just going to keep scrolling,
The
right? And
video the video stuff, you only need 2 or 3 things. And I think like you need decent light, right? So that's the only thing I make sure is there's decent light. And I'll take 2 seconds and edit it on CapCut just to make sure like it's in the frame, right? And I'll enhance the color.
Mhm. Yeah. But yeah, and like so I think like a lot of people are like, oh, what hooks are working too, right? And so like, what's a good example of a hook? And I think at the end of the day, like the best way to go about this is to figure out what's working right now, right? What's relevant right now. And so like the research, like that was important thing, or component of what Christy was doing, right? She's just doing a lot of research, right? She was scrolling through Instagram and literally like as a consumer of Instagram, and whenever she stops on a reel because it's intriguing, she basically gets analytical and go, why did I stop? Why did I read this? And why did I keep watching? And how can I do this for me? Right. And so rather than just mindlessly scrolling, like it was scrolling with intention. Right. And so, Christy, did you have anything specifically that you're really looking out for in your whenever you're scrolling?
I don't scroll my feed. So for all of you that if I follow you, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing your post probably. Because I'm not scrolling my feed. I'm scrolling the Reels feed. So at the bottom of your Instagram, there's those little things to the right of the plus sign is the Reels. That is what I'm scrolling. And I'm really only spending 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I also tend to notice the first ones that are showing up in my feed because Instagram's pushing those to me. So I'm like, why is this the first one in my feed in Reels? And I'll pay attention to those first 10 specifically.
Yeah. The relevancy of it. Like that's a big thing that she's noticed, right? Is like you don't need to scroll for days. It's like we're the first ones that Instagram's actually putting in front of you, because like you're gonna be kind of like your clients, right? Think about it, right? We're trying to attract people like us. Well, we want to see, why is Instagram putting things in front of us first, right? And she's trying to keep her basically her feed specifically to the people that she wants to speak to. And then what is also the audios as well? That was another thing,
Mm.
right? She's looking at trending audios that are relevant like right now. And so trending being like, what are you looking for? 1,000
Yeah.
or
So
less?
when you are looking at a reel, down at the bottom is the audio, and you can see it kind of moving, and there's going to be an arrow if it's trending. And so what you do is if you click on it, it opens up the audio, and you can see how many reels are currently shared with that audio. I don't touch anything that's over 5,000 unless it feels like, okay, this is just like the perfect song. But I'm looking for ones that are trending but don't have a lot of shares yet.
Yeah.
And so I'll save those audios. Monica, did you have a question?
Yeah, so when I first got into business 2 years ago, the business coach I had was like super pushing Instagram and Reels and kind of like the same points that you're hitting as well. Um, Within the last 2 years that I've been in business, like all of my leads come from Facebook pretty much. Anybody who's ever purchased a program from me comes from Facebook, with the maybe exception of like 5 to 10 people that I've gotten from TikTok. So typically what I do is, and you can share your thoughts, I try to use Instagram and TikTok to push people to my Facebook group. So it's never like I'm trying to sell to them on those platforms. I'm trying to funnel them to my Facebook group or into a lead magnet. If they want a lead magnet, sometimes I'll do it that way too. But do you feel like these same things can be adapted for like your personal profile and also your Facebook group as well? Because I've played with Reels on Facebook, because sometimes when you upload a video, it automatically converts it to a reel anyways. But I've kind of stopped trying to focus on like the reels on Instagram and getting views, because time after time, and even if I am consistent with it daily, like it just doesn't seem to be converting for me.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of share too the next piece of the strategy I think will help with that. Where you disappeared, you moved on my grid, Monica. Oh, there you are. You moved all the way over. Um, I think the next piece of this strategy will be helpful, but I don't see why this stuff wouldn't apply to Facebook Reels, because they seem to be pushing those really well too. But I'll say, like, the way that you just described Instagram as a strategy was the way that I described it also up until this point. And so it was like, I don't really use Instagram for that. I use it for my stories, but I get my people from Facebook and whatever else. The thing is that ran dry for me after a certain amount of time. So the same problem, we'll all face the same problem at some point, is like your warm audience will be gone. And so you just have to choose, well, like, where am I going to get leads from? And there are a lot of different ways to do it. And Facebook is one of them. So I totally think that's a reasonable way to do it. It's just that you got to
It-
pick one.
Yeah, I will say Instagram is a lot easier to funnel people into your pipeline from than Facebook Reels. Right. So it's a lot easier to take views and attention and comments from Instagram, because you can go in there, you can DM them if you wanted to. Facebook, it's really hard to have a conversation with those people in a private manner. Right. So like that can be a barrier of resistance. And the next thing, your bio on Instagram, it's right there. Right. If they're going to looking at your reels, they're going to go back and they're going to look at a few other ones, and they have that call to action right there. On your Facebook, it's not going to be like that. Right. It's a lot harder. It's not as clear and precise to see. Right. It's just not simple on the eyes. So I think that's really the biggest barrier of resistance. But yeah, like I think that the strategy stays true across the board. And like this is no different. Like that's what I realized. It's really no different from any other platform or mechanism in general when it comes to like marketing in general, right? It's all about figuring out what works, why it's working, testing it, and reiterating on it, right? Like at the biggest picture, you know. And so it can work across any platform. It's just something you actually have to do consistently and learn what's working and why it's working, right? So it's just one of those things. Like I totally believe like your people are on Instagram too. You just haven't figured it out, right? You just haven't figured out how to get their attention yet, which is okay, right? And that's like the hard, right? It's figuring that piece out. Like you figured out on Facebook, which is why you don't want to deter or go shift your focus from it, right? And so it's just got to figure out like what boat do you want to row in, kind of thing.
Yeah. And, also up until I started doing this strategy, I really thought I had a lot of coaches that follow me on Instagram because I've done speaking events, because of CBM, because of other stuff. And I'm like, my person's not following me on Instagram, but that's because I wasn't making content for them, you know? And so the other thing is that a lot of my old content used to be kind of cool. Like it was like, oh, cool. Like Christy can power clean a lot of weight, but it like didn't provide any value to people who were following me. Chris, what was your question?
Yes, so I was curious on two things. So Nick, you talked about your captions. I'm assuming captions is not like the auto captions in the video or reel, but essentially what you're posting down
Mhm.
below. Generally, I don't really post much in them because I want more, because I feel like people just watch the video, they don't really go to the captions. So how are you utilizing the captions to increase engagement?
People go to the captions. They
Okay.
read the captions. That's where you provide the value, right? You use the video to capture their attention and use the caption to provide value, right?
Sure.
And you can actually provide value in the videos too, like 100%. You absolutely can, right? But you have to provide it somewhere, and it's a lot. I think it's a lot easier to do inside of the captions for most, and it gets them to watch the video longer, right? Because the goal is to increase the duration of how long they're watching your video. Like Instagram rewards that, right? And so when you have like a very thought out, meaningful caption that provides a lot of value, well, that reel is just playing on repeat as they're reading it, right? And so that's ultimately what Instagram is really rewarding right now.
Yeah, like
Okay.
Nick said, it has to be valuable somewhere. So if like you were going to teach somebody how to use Canva, well, then the value can be in the reel, the video, because you're going to be like, literally, look, click this button, do this, move this around. They're going to see it on there. And so watching it is valuable. And so then the caption can just reinforce it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also, Christy, you said that you don't choose audio that has over 5,000 plays. Is there a reason for that? I just generally like, oh, this fits, so I play it. Like I've done the trending audio one a couple times and I didn't really notice much of a change. But I also don't have a very large following, so
I didn't
I was just
notice I didn't know, just to be clear too, like this happened like the real momentum started picking up like maybe 3 weeks ago, like not that long ago. I'd been posting for a while before anything really changed. And so you've got to do those reps. I changed. I got better at it because I was posting, but my views and follows, it didn't really change too much. I was just slowly going up. The
okay.
audio isn't the number of plays, it's the number of
Mhm.
shares. So it's like the
Okay.
trending audio has the arrow, and like if it's got 700,000 people have already used this trending audio, it just has less of an opportunity to be pushed in the feed. People are already seeing Beyonce's Texas song. It's been
Yeah.
right. So like that would have hit 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
It's still trending though. So
Okay,
if you're
so you're more looking for audio that's gonna also capture their attention like the hook would, because they're like, oh, I haven't heard this before, or something of that nature.
That's not the reason.
Yes.
So
That's
you're
a
looking for
bonus.
Okay.
you're looking for the early part of the trend, not
Exactly.
once it's baked
Okay.
and it's fried on
Exactly.
everybody's brain.
She's just looking to catch the wave of when that video or that audio really blows up. When everyone starts to use that audio for the reels, it just pushes it along with it, right? Just riding the wave of the trending audio, basically.
I also use that as an opportunity to look for more hooks. So when I open an audio and I'm looking at that page where all the audio has been used, I will read those hooks. And a lot of times they're in other industries. And so I can see like how did the real estate person use it? Or the like home decorator person use it, or the pet walker. Like I'm reading those and thinking about the hooks. And so these are just small pieces of it. So I want to underline like the main point, which is in order to increase your views, which is what you have to do for this strategy to work, you have to get more views because you have to get the attention on your account. You have to get better at reels. How do you get better at reels? You do better hooks, you do better captions that deliver more value. So it has to be, man, I'm really glad I read that, or like, that was good. You know, they have to actually get that out of there. So you have to start thinking more like your person. They're not thinking if they haven't I was just having this conversation with Lois yesterday. Lois is here. We were talking about people and like how she helps a lot of her clients with, incorporating strength training. Well, guess what? Like they're not strength training yet. So they don't care what their deadlift form looks like yet, because a tweak to their deadlift form is irrelevant. Even if they're like, now, oh, I can do a deadlift safely. That's not what they're thinking to themselves. They're thinking to themselves, what if I pee my pants at my workout? Because that's what women think. They worry about that stuff. That's what they're thinking. So that's the other thing, is if you can start to think like, what are they thinking? And then you say it for them, speak for them, and solve the problem. Then all of a sudden now it's like, well, this is an account I want to follow. So that's the underline, is we're trying to get more views. How do we do it? We improve our hooks, our captions, and the value of our content, whatever that is, whether it's the video or whatever. You do that through studying and through repetition. That's it. Studying and repetition.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the next part of the strategy. Like that's, for me, I did that up until about 2 to 3 weeks ago. I was like, all right, it's time to put the lead magnet. It's time to start putting the lead magnet together. Now, after 5 years of coaching and Fit Me, I probably have 700 different things I could have thrown up in my bio. Things that I've built, trainings that I've done, all of that. And in the past, that's what I would have done. I would have been like, this was a good training. Like people will like this. And then what should the title of it be? And then what should I put as the call to action? Because I have this really good training that I want to share with everybody. The second part of this really important strategy that you've got to underline is backwards for lead generation. That's backwards. And so what I did this time was completely different. I started with, okay, what are the hooks in the content that's hitting? Which ones really seem to be like the ones people are most interested in? And you only know that after doing it a bunch of times. So then it's like, okay, well, which thing is hitting? And then what are my ideal clients looking for at this stage? What are they filling out? What are they downloading? What are they watching? And so I had to do some homework on that, because it's been a minute. It's been 10 years since I was in those shoes. And so I started talking to some of my clients, some other people. I was brainstorming ideas. I was trying to figure out, okay, what is it that would be the most engaging for them, that they would actually click on it and fill it out, that they would want. So I did probably about 2 weeks of research on that, conversations. And I had narrowed it down to 2 things. And so then I just picked the one I thought was better. And so I picked it thinking like, okay, they want to fill out a quiz because they want to know something about their metabolism. For my person, this seems to be the thing. They are sure that they are broken. That is the thing. I know that about them. So then it was like, well, now I'm going to design this page, the landing page, not the actual thing, the landing page. Because again, like your landing page where they end up, this funnel design is where they're going to make the decision to put in their email or not. So that was the next piece.
But you didn't make this until you were 3 months into your restoration phase, right? Or 2 months in? Or was it earlier on?
I did this 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
the lead magnet design, because I couldn't do it earlier than that because I didn't know yet what was hitting for the people that were following my account. And so then it was like, okay, this is what they're most excited about. And it's going to be different for everybody on here. So don't think, oh, I'm going to do you certainly could do a quiz. That's a lot of quizzes are great lead magnets, but there's also lots of other great lead magnets too. You just got to pay attention to your people, what they're interested in. And so then I did some funnel design homework and I was like, okay, what can be my most simple and clear headline? What can I put on this page so that this just very obvious that they want to do this? And so I built that page and then I checked that for a little bit. I tossed it back and forth with Nick a couple of times. I sent it to some ideal clients. I was like, what do you think of this? You know, that was the next piece. Because I
So
was, go ahead, Monica.
sorry. In doing your research, I mean, it's like I could rattle off like a handful of pain points that I cycle through and helping people to fix within my content. Is that kind of what you were doing was throwing out content based to those pain points to see was like the one that you could hone in on?
It's whatever was working. So whatever got the most views, she went and figured out why it got the most views, and whatever they were saying in the captions, how they were responding to the caption, that's where that came from. Right? It's not our agenda that we're trying to push, but we got to listen to our people. Like, what are the words that they're using and how are they using them? And what is resonating with them? And then so she started making more content similar, and they're like, oh shit, like this really is working. Right? They're really resonating with this type of content. Right? And then really it's just looking and listening to that. That's really what it is.
So a lot of my like plate reels were hitting pretty well. They were actually doing really well on views. So there was a little bit of time there that I was like, I should do my plate lead magnet. I've done that before. I have a really good plate guide. That's a game I've played in my group. And I thought about doing that as a lead magnet. That was one of the ones that was in the running. The other thing that I thought about doing was people really engaged with my personal journey. And I know that sometimes people want to know what you're doing. Like they want to download the person that they're following's plan. I want to see your nutrition plan and workout plan. I've seen that before and I was like, maybe that's what they would want. They'd want to see what I'm doing. So I thought about putting that out there because people would engage with those posts. But the one that I think was the most painful, the one that was the stickiest was this feeling that they were broken. And when I would make posts about, you know, being metabolically adapted, I wouldn't call it that in the reel, but when I would make posts about that, that was the ones that I felt like were the biggest reason to put in your email address. Do you want to learn how to make a healthy plate? Yeah, kind of. Like, do I want to see your workouts and stuff? Yeah, I do, but I might not put my email. Do I want to know why I'm broken? Yes, I do. And so that was the research. It was kind of just like thinking about them. And then I took those ideas and I would send them to people. I send voice messages to a bunch of people and would just say like, hey, I'm thinking about putting this together. Is this something you would want? What were you looking for? What did you download? Does anybody does this resonate that you guys also did it backwards like me? Like, do you have like a really good training that you feel like should be a lead magnet or some really good recipe guide that you like, I would like to put that out? Like, that is how I had done it for a long time.
So something I just threw out was I posted a bunch of across a bunch of first responder Facebook groups was when it comes to working out, what's your biggest challenge? Like broad, vague question. Been picking and pulling from that, friend requesting people. But my goal was to kind of do like what you guys do is create a league magnet for a live training to get people to actually to sign up to come to the training. That way I could pick the main things to be like, if you're struggling in the gym, like here's my training on how to get started, what to do, da 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 da. I mean, would that be similar to finding, I guess, kind of what you're talking about, of finding what hits, or is that going backwards again?
Where are you
Sounds like
doing this research at?
So the way I've always gotten leads from Facebook is literally from posting in first responder Facebook groups.
Gotcha.
That's how I meet new people. That's how I friend request them. That's how I start having conversations and engaging. And most of the time I don't even have to push them to the group. It just naturally happens of they see my page, they start seeing what I'm doing, and then they request to get in the page. From
Yeah.
posting that one question across 10 Facebook pages, like I've already gotten like 10 new group ads this week.
Nice.
And
Awesome.
and for the majority of those, they put their email in too to be opted into the email list as like getting into
Yeah.
the Facebook group. So sometimes every once in a while, I'll throw a question out, like an engagement question across groups. And that's kind of been my funnel for a little while of like, well, I'm getting low on people. They're not coming into my group.
Mm.
And then I'll go throw that out because especially in female first responder pages, like that's my ICA, boom, there's
Yeah.
10,000 of them in one group. Who's going to engage with what I'm posting?
Yeah.
So
I think
that
the
was just kind
only
of my thought process lately was like, I'm going to throw out a question and then I'm going to see who
yeah.
might engage or friend request people and then create a training and push that out and see if I can push people through that way.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with doing like these almost like these hand raise style posts, right? But the thing is you're kind of like pigeonholing the answers, the response, because we're asking, is it about workouts? So that's the only kind of response it can be, rather than figuring out what is it that they want first. Like, do they even want workouts more than they want something else? Right. And I think that's the bigger thing, is going even broader first and listening to the audience and figure out, okay, what are they more engaging with? Because Christy posts workout stuff too, right? And so like the workout stuff wasn't really hitting as much as this stuff, And so we basically stepped back even further, just going really broad, like not niching down at all. And then, okay, figuring out and listening to like what's being more engaged with, and then going that direction, right? And so I think that's the only thing you got to be careful with doing that, is you could be missing a much bigger opportunity somewhere else, right? But like, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you want to do like specific trainings. Like, absolutely, that works. You know what I mean? But I think you could just go broader and then figure out, okay, how can we go broader first? Figure out what's hitting, and then you can narrow in a little bit further. It's kind of like the opposite of what like we're told to do, right? When it comes to like just coaching in general, like we need to niche down, we need to speak to our ICA, right? But first, we need to go really broad with our marketing message to figure out what's actually working to niche down.
I
Yeah.
think the other thing that I've learned recently, and again, like this is just from repetitions, is that I can talk to things that are, I would call them like next door to nutrition coaching or fitness coaching. So, for example, just sharing something that is relevant to the situation that they're in, but not being like, and it's not like I don't think ever was I like, I'm a nutrition coach. I'll put it in there sometimes, but the actual reel isn't really about that. It's like next door to it. It's like, this is my favorite tortilla. Like, just, I know that sounds crazy, it's just like super direct and simple. So like, this is just something I'm spitballing, Monica, so this might not be exactly relevant at all, but like maybe it's like, this is my favorite pair of utility pants that are flattering for women. That is next door to talking about that pants don't feel good on your body when you're overweight as a first responder. These are my favorite pants, but oh, by the way, like if you're trying to like feel less inflamed and less bloated, like try these 3 things. That is how I would position a reel in your market, would be to do the video on the pants and then talk about ways you can be less inflamed and bloated in the caption.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've thought about those types of things before, just never put it into practice. But yeah, I like that. That's cool.
So then the last piece of this like really was just this week, and that's why it's kind of funny to share it with you, because it's literally happening right now. Is that on Sunday the page was done and I knew what I was going to respond to people with. So I actually Saturday, I think I soft launched it. I just put it in my bio. I didn't call to action it. I just put it in my bio. I probably had 4 or 7 people fill it out. I didn't say a word about it. And I manually responded to them. So I was like writing them back on email. This is what your metabolism plan should be based off of your quiz answers, because I wanted to feel out what these answers were going to be. And then Sunday morning, I posted a video with a similar hook that I knew had worked in the past, with a similar style video that I had seen was working right now. I put a really valuable caption, and at the end of the caption was a call to action to go to the link in the bio and fill out the quiz. And so then Sunday morning, I got like 20 or 30 like right away. And I was like, oh my God. So I'm like writing the emails back to these people because I hadn't built the guide, the metabolism plan guide, because I didn't think it would go that fast. So I was just writing back manually because I was like, I'm going to feel this out, then build the guide. And then the reel exploded. So then I spent all day Sunday, built out my actual metabolism plan guides, all of the automations for it, everything. So it's all super organized. And then that's where we are right now. Right now, I'm rewriting my nurture sequence so that it matches the whole concept that they came in on in the guide. And that's the strategy to get 400 organic leads. It seems so funny to say, but that's literally what it was. There's no smoke and mirrors. We wanted to share it with you guys as soon as possible because we know this is a thing. So I guess like my advice would be, uh, and side note, I want to shout out Lexi, who did 75 hard with me all the way through the end. And basically, I don't know if it was your biggest month, but you crushed it this past month with coaching. She completely capped her roster. She crushed her challenge, like had a huge month. And so the consistency of it paid off with her warm audience too, like big time. And so I think like, and just the repetitions will pay off in the long run. But I guess the thing that I'm challenging you to do is if you actually want to if you want to do this with me, I'm going to keep doing it. And so this is just one way to get leads. But the reason that I think that it's worth your attention is because one, all that it requires is some time and repetition. You can do it. You do not have to be great at social media or have a giant following. And then you can put all of the other pieces in place that lead them to become a client. So once they've opted into your lead magnet, now you can nurture them. You can have them join your challenge. You can make them an offer. You now have them as an actual owned media as opposed to Instagram, which will disappear. If Instagram disappeared tomorrow and I hadn't done the lead magnet part, it wouldn't have mattered in terms of like what there would have been no crossover for my business. But Instagram can disappear tomorrow and I still have these 450 people now. So that's what we want for your business, is that you guys get your right fit clients to pay attention to your content and to opt into your stuff and to be nurtured and become clients. So what questions do you guys have? You guys can just unmute. It's cool.
Oh, yeah, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool to see your style of Instagram post, because I was struggling with like I gotta make this video like really good, and it takes a little bit of time, which is okay. So it's really cool. Do you think that style of posting, because I looked at your Facebook as well, your Instagram's completely different as far as like how you post, and you're driving people to the caption. And I'm trying to just like, I use a spreadsheet now to kind of schedule out my content so I can be like ahead of the game. So do you pre-plan your Instagram and then do something completely different for your Facebook, or could I recycle some of this for both platforms? Like, do you think it would translate to Facebook, that style of post that you're doing?
I think it could translate. I know that Facebook Reels are something that also can get a lot of views. Like I've seen a lot of people who get a ton of traction off of Facebook Reels. So I don't know for sure.
Okay. Yeah, and I was just looking to be, if I'm going to put time in, is like, how can I still stay consistent on Facebook? Because that's where I've been putting a lot of my time. But I really like how you've simplified, like your video doesn't have to be the fanciest thing in the world, and it just drives people to the actual caption part, where if they're reading the caption, then probably are people you want to talk to. I mean, so I'm just trying to make sure, if I do both, how can I stay consistent? And obviously using the same thing for both platforms would help, but no, it's super helpful.
Yeah. What other questions?
I got a tactical question. Um, what would you say your strategy is for creating a content on a weekly basis? You can kind of tackle it more on a daily basis, and kind of going on what Basil said as well. Is there a framework or plan that you have in place to kind of put this out? And then do you bucket your content into different things like entertaining, inspirational, motivational, that kind of stuff?
I think like that can be really helpful. And I know, like, for example, like Emily Carlson does like a phenomenal job with helping people figure out like what style of content to do and how to like authentically show up in different buckets. And so I think that can be really valuable. It's just really what you can do consistently. So you can, so like for me, it's just me sharing, like my rhythm just seems to be plates, workouts, a little bit of like insight into what I'm doing and then so on, it's not I guess there's not I think doing content buckets can be really helpful. And if you haven't done any of that brainstorming, like I said, I think Emily's got some really good resources on that.
About your like kind of a content calendar style, do you create this like wake up every morning and kind of see what kind of pops up? Do you have a plan? Or you do this on like a Monday and then post regularly at the same time every day? Just kind of curious as to a little bit more tactical what you did over the last 75 days.
I don't do that at all. But you can do that. I think it just depends on your work style.
Okay.
Like I know a lot of people do much better with a plan and mapping it all out. And I think again, like those can be really helpful. My work style doesn't tend to be like that anyway, and so I didn't do that. It was more
Makes
like
sense.
research in what video I had, and just because it had to be daily, that's kind of what I was going to do.
And you just book out some time during the day, or do you kind of wait till it comes to you a little bit more inspirationally?
Both. Yeah,
Yeah.
both. Uh-huh.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
When you, so I get from like the very beginning, like I'm pretty excited about I might even start mapping out 75 days myself and just going
Mhm.
through this. Did you, while you're in the first, phase of this or the first steps, were you already designing, and I guess you maybe can't even do that, but were you like, hey, in 30 or after 75 days, I'm gonna do this, and already start building that or having those things in place? Like how far ahead are you with that strategy?
The only strategy we knew was like we needed to get more views, and then we also wanted to have a lead magnet once we got them. And so that was really the strategy. So I didn't start working on the lead magnet until I got more views.
So and I guess it's almost like looking for validation of like, it's okay not to be that far ahead. Like you can kind of take these things as they come.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And again, the whole goal for this was just getting leads. Like it was just, how do you do that? And so then work in reverse. And so finding the way that you feel comfortable showing up on video is also like really key. Whether that is like a talking voice, whether that is like demonstrating something, whether that's showing something, like you'll just have to find like what you feel most comfortable doing. Any other questions before we wrap up? And again, like if you guys aren't in Emily's Facebook group, I definitely recommend it. Like she is an expert in Instagram, and so Emily's content Facebook group is phenomenal. And I know like she works really hands-on with her clients. So if you're somebody who is like, I actually need structure, like, and somebody to help me, that's who we recommend. And so go check her out for sure. But really, we just wanted to share, like, this is just an update. That's all that this was, and wanted to give you guys the information as it's unfolding. And we'll probably do another one down the road, because I would love to share with you guys what we're learning from refining the nurture sequence, the offer, that whole piece, because I'm testing that piece too. Cool. Well, it's great to see you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Hopefully you got something that you can use, and we'll see you next time. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Christy.